Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we have a gel printing with DIY mark maker tutorial. We're going to make these mark makers and then we're going to use them as a stamp and on the gel plate. So we are first going to make them and use them as stamps. And to be honest, this was going to be just a create your own stamp video, but it turned into a gel printing session. So I have some mesh from produce, and different bags have different size holes, and you can experiment with all of them and see which ones you like. So on this block, which is a block from a stamp that I've removed because I use it differently, I'm just sticking the mesh on here. Now you could put this on cardboard, you could put this on any foam core, and you can even glue it down with gel medium and let that dry. I'm just sticking it into the adhesive that was there, but I think a spray adhesive would also work on a temporary basis. Now I didn't even waste time cutting it out. You'll see me doing that later. And I'm putting the paint on with a brayer. Now underneath here I have a silicone mat, and that makes it kind of spongy, and you're going to get a better print. Now look at that lovely print that I'm getting, or mark that I could put onto an art journal page or onto tissue paper or whatever. Then I thought, okay, what if I sprayed it with water? And it got a little bit globby, but you know what? I don't dislike that look. You're going to get very organic, imprecise type of look. So if you like things exact, this isn't maybe the technique for you. And you can play with the consistency of the paint. If you have craft paint that's thinner, it's going to act in a different way. So play around and see what works best for you. Even the type of a mesh is going to do that. Look at this lovely print. Now I took some of that mesh and I used some matte medium and I glued it down onto the cap of an old pill bottle or some kind of medicine bottle. I'm brushing the paint on and then using it as a stamp. I love the circular shape, and you're getting a really nice stamp here. If you want to skip ahead to the gel printing session, that starts about minute 10. And I'll be using all these DIY stamps or dollar store stamps later on during the gel printing session. So remember I said temporarily I was just leaving it on, but I decided, you know, I'm going to leave this on here permanently, and I'm just going to cut off the excess. You can save all these little bits because you can use these on a different block. Every time you put the mesh on, you're going to get a different look. Complete variation. So here I'm just brayering it on again, a little bit more paint. I highly recommend using a block or something that's really solid, because you want to press quite hard to get that imprint, especially if you're using it just as a stamp. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So this is a lint roller, and of course it's sticky. So I thought, what if I took some of that mesh and wrapped it around the lint roller? No need to get out the Mod Podge or gel medium. I can just put this on the lint roller, stretch it, shape it however I want. And again, every time you put it on, it's going to look different. And I'm cutting off the excess. And I don't want it layered one on top of the other because I want it all even. And it really worked well. It stuck very, very well. And then I'm spreading paint on my glass tabletop off camera here, but that's all I'm doing. And then I'm just going to roll that into the paint. And then pressing it down. And it's somewhat faint. I think if the paint was a little bit more liquidy, or your bag was a little bit more cloth than plastic, you get a different look. So again, save all the bags and try them out. And press harder. Like right there. See, I had it a little bit wetter and we got a better imprint. And I like how this can go across the whole page. I can't wait to use this on an art journal page. Under the sea, this could be mermaid scales. And you can wipe off some of the excess paint. I think over time it would build up, and then you just rip it off and put it on again. Because we all have lots of these produce bags over time. So here, when I'm done with this, I'm just peeling it off. And I was going to peel off to the next layer of the lint roller, but I decided it was still very sticky. So here I just grabbed some jute, and you could use a continuous length of it, but I had these little bits that were from something that I had gotten at the Dollar Tree. And I'm just wrapping them around. And again, however you put it, straight, closer, further apart is what you're going to get. Every time is going to be different. Now, what I would do is go get more lint rollers and have several on the go. Because here I only have the one. So every time I wanted to use the lint roller to make another stamp, I had to take off the one. So here I'm just rolling it into the paint, and then I can just roll it onto my page. I can do different colors, and I can play with the kind of lines. I can make them less or more wavy, further apart, what have you. This can add some interesting marks to your page. And you will see this being used on the gel plate in a minute or two. So I had some more of that jute and another block. So this block is tacky because I've taken off the stamp that was on here. But you can use spray adhesive. You can glue it down permanently with gel medium if you want. Here I'm just making some organic shapes. So the sky's the limit. You can use 2x4s. If your husband's a woodworker, go grab, get different size blocks. And I'm putting it on with the brayer. And pressing the stamp. I love the organic feel of this. So there are the stamps that I have. I'll be adding a couple more things that I got at the Dollar Tree, and this is one of them. This is a Lego base. I think it's 12 by 12, and I'm just brayering on paint and using it as a stamp on an old napkin, actually. A napkin I just have used other parts of it, and I'm just stamping on to it. And look how wonderful. You get these wonderful dot stamps. Easy peasy. You can put all sorts of different colors on there and have different colors as well. They do come in smaller sizes. So for an art journal page, you may just want the smaller size. But for the gel plate, I did want the bigger one. So I thought maybe, how would this work if I use the gel plate? What kind of mark making would it give me on the gel plate? And we're going to figure this out and work it out. And actually, you get a whole lot of prints as you go, and you're going to see what I mean. Now I have some base prints here from another session. They've got a little color, maybe a little pattern on them, but I wanted to add to them. So I'm just going to use this gel plate with the paint as kind of a stamp pad, and then stamp onto some gel print bases, just like that. Just add a little detail. This might be the final layer, this might not be the final layer. I may add more layers. So now I have the marks on the gel plate here. So we're going to pull this print. And there we have it. Very organic, lovely detail. Now I could add other things, and there's another one that I did. So you can get same but different kind of looks and play around. So that's using the lint roller with jute wrapped around it. I do speed up parts of this video later on. So here I'm using dioxazine purple and neon pink. And I'm just using that and rubbing it, stamping it off onto one of those base papers. There's nothing, so you get the stamping on the base paper, the first print here, first pull, which I'm going to add more layers later on. You'll see him come back. And then I'm adding more paint on. Now here's the mesh on the block. I'm putting the silicone mat down because I want to stamp off on a paper, and it's best if it's squishy. It's very faint here. I'm not getting a whole lot, and that's making me think I should dig out my second gel plate, because that works well. And that is a technique that I have where I do a 2-plate gel printing session. And stamping onto the gel plate instead of a silicone mat just gives more of the stamp. You'll see all these at the end if you want a closer up. So we've stamped off on the one, and there's the first pull. Loving it. So now I'm mixing deep violet and I believe orange, which is one of my favorite color combos. Where they connect, they kind of make this rosy color. And I'm using the stamp and stamping off. I still have that silicone mat underneath, but right now I do break down and grab my other gel plate. And you'll see that the stamping, when I stamp off, it actually works better. So I've stamped off. I've got my first pull. And here I'm just going to add some more. I just put some turquoise paint on the gel plate, just using it kind of like a stamp pad, really. and just adding more of these lines using the same lint roller with the jute. I've got turquoise and dioxazine purple, which makes another lovely combination. I discovered that you need, when you're using it as a stamp pad, you need it to be fairly wet. And I think that's part of my problem here. I don't have enough paint on the gel plate. The other problem is the silicone mat isn't quite as squishy as the gel plate will be. So I'm going to rectify both of those problems coming up. So here I'm just stamping off on a white paper, but I could be on a base color, could be on an art journal page. And then I'm going to pull. So we've stamped, and here's the first pull. But you'll see there's lots left on the gel plate. So I'm using white here, and that I need a lot of white paint. So I'm adding white paint. And you can see the shine, and look at how much the stamping is now. I don't have to press really hard. So I've added paint on the gel plate that I'm using as a stamp pad, and I'm using the gel plate underneath the paper. And look at this lovely organic stamping. So now this is the pull-off print. I put the white there and I'm pulling it off. There's still lots left on the gel plate, yes, but look at that. So there's the pull-off print, there's the stamp off, and there's the first print. And there's just stamping. So it's really interesting how many you can get. So here is the Lego base. And here's some gel print that I just have a couple layers already there, but I wanted to add more. So I'm adding deep violet and dioxazine purple here. And it's shiny, so you want it fairly wet because you want to you're using it for stamping. And then I'm pressing it off on here, and the gel plate's underneath. And look at that lovely second layer. So I've just smoothed that over and I'm stamping it again. Now this Lego base, you get so many different kind of prints. I move it on this one. I'm using it as stamp, use the brayer to press it down harder. Something about dots I love. And then I'm going to pull that print. And I noticed that the Lego base, when I put it on, I kind of had shifted it, so that gives a different effect. It's not perfect dots anymore, and I'm really liking it. So now I'm doing a pull-off print. I've got purple on there, and I'm using turquoise. And that's going to dry for a bit, sit for a bit, and then I'm going to pull it off. And then we have the clean off print. So you get very different looks with each pull, with how you even move or lay the Lego base. But I'm not done with that Lego base. Because I saw that I moved when I put it on. And then if you have lots of paint, that is an occupational hazard. So here I'm going to put some cadmium red and orange on the plate. And it's quite wet, which is why we get 2 pulls off of it. And then there's my base print that I'm going to put something. And here I'm twisting it deliberately to get some interesting pattern. I'm going to stamp off on this one. And you can see the twist. You'll see it a little bit more when I pull that print. Here I've added red on top of the blue-green. Love it. And this 12 by 12 size is perfect for my 8 by 10 gel plate, or if you've got a 12. And then I'm stamping right onto the gel plate. Anything I stamp onto the gel plate, I'm going to let dry, and then I'm going to do a pull-off print. There's lots left on the plate, and look at it, it kind of swirls in the middle there. Love it. So we have leftovers on this one, and we've stamped on the other one. I'm going to add a little bit more stamping on the gel plate on the left. Add a different color. And then I'm going to make sure that this dries before I put the next color. Here I'm putting Naples yellow on top. Now everything on that gel plate had dried. That was all the stuff that was left from that first pull. And I'm going to put the paper on, and that's just to sit for a bit. And here I'm just putting cadmium yellow, I believe. And then I will let this sit for a bit. I don't let it perfectly dry, but it does take a little bit of time, and I'm often turning off the camera, waiting, and coming back. You can brayer it to make sure that you've got good contact, and now we're lifting it. Look at that loveliness. Grunge and, oh. And again, we're using the same mark making tool, and we're getting all these different effects. And here's the other one where I stamped right onto the gel plate. And I'm going to do another spinning one here. Turning it. And I'll pull that print, and I'm stamping off the excess onto a base print. And there's the full print with the spin. Oh, I just love that effect. Now here is the mesh that I put on a round lid, and I'm stamping on the one side and stamping off onto the other gel plate. The one on the left, I'm going to let that part dry before I put paint on top to lift it. And I'm going to pull the right side, I'm going to pull that print. Remember, it's quite wet because we're using it to stamp. Oh, loving that. Now I'm using white to get the pull-off print here. You can use titanium, unbleached titanium white. You can use another other light color. Experiment. Anything goes. If you like it, do it again. If you don't do it again. And there's the pull-off print. So you get the first print and then the clean-off print. Loving both of them. And the nice part of this is 100% yours, 100% original. And I think I'm going to take this and put it on a larger lid and have a couple different sizes to work on. So moving right along. I'm just going to do another one with that same stamp, just a different color. If reds weren't your color, maybe the teal blues here were your color, and you're going to like this one better. I like to show a couple different color options, because sometimes it's the colors we don't like, not the stamp. And I'm just cleaning off excess paint. I'm going to pull that first print. That other side, I'm going to wait till it dries. Then I'm going to put some paint on it. You don't want too much here. If you put more paint here, it takes longer for it to dry before you can pull it off successfully. And oh, love that. And once that dries, there was some red from that one from before on there. Absolute grunge loveliness. So there is the mesh on the lint roller. And if you remember, when I used this just as a mark making tool right on the paper, it was very faint. And I was wondering if I could get a just more of a print here. So I'm rubbing it off, and I'm going to pull that print. It's a very subtle pattern, but I love it. And I'm adding white, and here I'm pressing on there on the roller. I like the white on that base color. And if you press harder, you get more of a print. So that one I had put that print on. Now it's dry, so I'm going to add white on top of it and then do a clean off print. Clean up print. I'm going to let that dry. Time has elapsed, and look at this. I'm loving both of them, and I definitely will be keeping that. Definitely heading back to the Dollar Tree and getting some more lint rollers so that I can have several on the go. And here I'm pressing really hard and using maybe a little more paint, and you can see the different mark I'm getting. So, you know, experiment, press harder, press lighter. What do you like? But I'm absolutely loving that look because paint is going in between where the mesh is and getting that print when it's wetter. So maybe more paint, more pressure, and you get a completely different look. So there's the mesh, and 3 very, very different looks. Now these will be used for an Insta background, or it'll jumpstart my art journal process. I'll use it in collage. So this is a silicone trivet that I got at the Dollar Tree or Dollar Store. I'm using purple and red, which is a lovely combo. Makes kind of a burgundy. I'm laying the trivet down and pressing. It's got that zigzag kind of look. Now in a perfect world, this would be the size of my gel plate, but it's not. So I'm just stamping off on the gel plate on the left side. And I'm overlapping, and so I'm going to pull this print, just getting rid of excess paint here. Love the colors. There's some subtle pattern. I think I would definitely be adding more to it. When this one's dry and both are dry, I'm going to put some white. And then I'm going to get a pull-off print here. Clean up print. Take all that stuff off. That's going to sit for a while, and then I can pull it off. And look at this absolute beautiful grunge. But this is the one I really like, that I stamped off on. Now you can use your gel plate and stamp right onto an art journal page if it's, and then have the that was sitting on a gel plate, and you'll get that same look or similar look. So I put bright aqua on there using the trivet. Just experimenting and playing with it, what kind of patterns I can make. What do I like? And again, I'm stamping off onto the gel plate on the left. And I'm going to pull the print on the right. Very plain, one tone, but we're going to add something to that in a bit. I'm adding dioxazine purple on top of this one to pull off this print. Clean off. And on this one, I am going to use Naples yellow. Once I let this sit for a bit, I'm going to pull it off. Look at that. Oh, yum. And there's the original, the first print, the clean off print. And here's another, this one we stamped on and then clean off. Using the double plate and the stamping off, you really maximize your gel printing session time. And love that one too. The color combo, everything about it. So this one was a little boring to me, a little one tone. So I'm just adding some purple and red on here. I'm thinking that'll look good on that bright aqua. So I'm just using the trivet. I'm just going to stamp onto that page. Oh, I'm not using the trivet. I'm going to add some dots first using the Lego base. And then I'm using the trivet. But my gel plate's a little dry. The paint wasn't, I didn't have enough paint. So you're not getting a whole lot. Just going to apply it just right with the brayer, the paint. And just build up those layers till you are happy. And then I'll pull this print. A clean off print, I'm putting bright aqua on top. I'm just using the brayer to put it right on the trivet. That trivet makes a perfect stamp. Basically it is a stamp, right? But cheap. And there's the pull-off print. So here is the jute on a block. So that was just stamping. That was stamping on top of the gel plate with white on a base print. This was a clean off print, and that was the first print. So you get very different looks depending on which print it is and how you're using it. So lots of variety. This one I used the jute that was on the lint roller, both on the gel plate and as a stamp. The two on the top are gel plate, and the two at the bottom were just using it as a stamp on the page or on a color background. This one had mesh on the block from produce bags. So this was just stamping on a page with the silicone mat underneath. And this was that one. That was a first print. That was stamping off with the gel plate underneath. Another stamping and another gel print using the mesh. Love it. I'm not saying that all of these are done. This one I put the mesh on a lid. This is just stamping. You can add that to any art journal page, whatever color you want. And then this was using the gel plates. This was a pull-off cleanup print, and then the first print. Cleanup print and first pull. Loving all of those. Here's mesh on the lint roller. Look at that. Looks like snake skin. That was the cleanup print. That was the first print, but you can see the pattern. That was using white, and that was using a lot more paint, and you got a very different look. A lot more paint, a lot more pressure. And more with white. This is the Lego base, and we had so many different looks with this one. We can use it as a stamp on base colors just to add those dots. And depending on how careful you are, you can make those dots move and dance and different sizes. It could be the second or third layer, like these ones. Or we twisted it on the plate and got kind of a spinning action, a little bit more motion. And I've done that in several colors. I was really liking that technique. So I kept going with different colors. Look at that one. You can really see the spin on it. How unique. Lego base, you say? And the trivet with the zigzag. Print, stamping off print, cleanup print. Print, cleanup print, cleanup print. Stamping off print, the yellow one. I hope you enjoyed this. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Until next time, on your mark, go make your mark.